Welcome to National Liberty Alliance's weekly call. Today is Monday, July 20th, 2026. We broadcast live every Monday from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're listening in over Rumble or YouTube and you would like to ask a question or make a comment, you can go to nationallibertyalliance.org and click on our weekly call for instructions to join us live by phone, app, or browser. Or if anyone would like to email a question, you can send your questions to questions, that's plural, questions at nationallibertyalliance.org. Also, please support our business partners. You can find their banners on the right-hand side of our website, of which the proceeds go to support NLA's effort to save our republic. Also, support NLA by donating $5 a month or more. Click on the donation tab on the top right side of our website. You can also join our Bible studies we have every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time right here in this Start Meeting room. Tonight's Bible reading is Ephesians chapter 2, read by Alexander Scorby. I think I got that. Hold on a minute. No, I think it's Romans. Hang on a minute. Yeah, Romans. We wrote Romans chapter 1, read by Alexander Scorby. Hang on a second.
The Epistle of Paul the Apostle to the Romans, Chapter 1. Paul, a servant of Jesus Christ, called to be an apostle, separated unto the gospel of God, which he had promised afore by his prophets in the Holy Scriptures, concerning his Son Jesus Christ our Lord, which was made of the seed of David according to the flesh, and declared to be the Son of God with power, according to the Spirit of holiness, by the resurrection from the dead, by whom we have received grace and apostleship for obedience to the faith among all nations for his name, among whom are ye also the called of Jesus Christ. To all that be in Rome, beloved of God, called to be saints, grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. First, I thank my God through Jesus Christ for you all, that your faith is spoken of throughout the whole world. For God is my witness, whom I serve with my spirit in the gospel of his Son, that without ceasing I make mention of you always in my prayers, making request, if by any means now at length I might have a prosperous journey by the will of God to come unto you. For I long to see you, that I may impart unto you some spiritual gift, to the end ye may be established. That is, that I may be comforted together with you by the mutual faith, both of you and me. Now I would not have you ignorant, brethren, that oftentimes I purposed to come unto you, but was let hitherto, that I might have some fruit among you also, even as among other Gentiles. I am debtor both to the Greeks and to the barbarians, both to the wise and to the unwise. So, as much as in me is, I am ready to preach the gospel to you that are at Rome also. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation to every one that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. For therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness, because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lusts of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman burned in their lust one toward another. Men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who, knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them.
Okay, Jen, do we have any questions tonight? Let me open up the queue, by the way. If anybody wants to get into the queue, it's *6 and 1 if you're on a phone, and if you're on an Apple browser, should be a button there to get into the queue. Okay, back to you, Jen. Do we have any questions tonight?
Yes, we have several tonight, John. The first one is a question, has some comments. The topic is, do we have two governments in America? The idea prevails for some. Indeed, it is found expression in arguments at the bar that we have in this country substantially two national governments, one to be maintained under the Constitution with all of its restrictions, the other to be maintained by Congress outside the independently of that instrument by exercising such powers of absolutism as other nations of the earth are accustomed to. I take leave to say that if the principles thus announced should ever receive the sanction of a majority of this court, a radical and mischievous change in our system of government will result. We will, in that event, pass from the era of constitutional liberty guarded and protected by a written constitution into an era of legislative absolutism. It will be an evil day for American liberty if the theory of government outside the supreme law of the land finds lodgment in our constitutional jurisprudence. No higher duty rests upon this court than to exert its full authority to prevent all violation of the principles of the Constitution, and that's from Downs v. Bidwell, minority opinion. It asks a question too, other than do we still have two governments? And that is, do we have the First Amendment right to associate or disassociate with political groups?
All right. When they talk about two governments, I saw them make the division particularly concerning the legislature, Congress, and I'm presuming the second one, I'm not sure whether they're talking about branches or whether they were talking about the administration versus the legislator. Is that what you got from that when they're talking about two governments? Because I'm not too sure. I mean, there is the deep state, and there is another government that has veiled over our government and has been operating for, goodness, it really started to operate back in let me think, 1871 is when they initially put things together, which was the Organic Act of 1871, which created that government that overveils our three branches of government. So I'm not sure what they were asking on that. They talking about that government versus the government that we the people ordained and established, or are they talking about the divisions and the problems between Congress and the administration, or are they even taking the court into play there? I don't know. What was your understanding on that, Jan, or anybody else?
I mean, they were asking about the Organic Act of 1871 and the government in D.C. for D.C. only.
All right. Well, that's
the government.
Yeah, that's the government that President Trump is dismantling. Okay, he's dismantling the deep state. He's dismantling that whole process. He's bringing us back to the Constitution. The problem is the people are incapable of maintaining a republic. And first of all, we have to know that we're a republic before we can even maintain being a republic. That's a major problem. There is, of course, that battle going between the two parties, which I'd like to be talking about tonight, which I think has a play into this particular subject matter, which we'll look at in a short while. The problem is that other government through the from 1871, the Organic Act that they constructed has taken control of our courts, and I think our courts was probably the first thing to be seized. But they were working on the entire government, and they've been doing so actually since the very beginning of our nation. And of course, they've had control eventually of the administration, and Congress, I think, has sold us out a long, long time ago. Even when they had the opportunity to stop some of this stuff, they didn't, and I don't know why they didn't, because I do believe they saw what was happening. And I'm talking about the legislators now. Turning us over in the turn of the century to the 16th and the 17th Amendment was very destructive, particularly the 17th Amendment. I think the most destructive thing that they ever put forward is the 17th Amendment. Nothing was more destructive than that, from my opinion, because I don't believe they could have accomplished the goals that they've accomplished. I don't think they could have seized control of both legislators without the 17th Amendment. I think it was an impossibility, because then they'd have to fight against not only one government, but against 51 governments, 50 of them being each of the states, of course, and the 51st being the federal government. So, was there anything else in that question or statement that I should respond to that you can think of, Jan?
Well, then they had the follow-on question, do we have the First Amendment right to associate or disassociate with political groups?
Well, if they have their way, we won't have that right, because it's only what they'll permit us to do or have. It's heading that way. It was heading that way. I don't think it's heading that way again. And I'm going to say it again. Trump is putting things back together. There's no doubt about it. He's doing a fantastic job. I don't know that there's anyone else that is qualified to have been able to do the things that he's been doing. He's a unique individual for the job that he's been doing. But the big problem is the people don't know how to have government by consent. That is the problem. That's why the republic, I don't think, can be saved unless the people wake up enough to realize this. We have a couple of major problems, of course. One of the biggest problems in this country, that it really goes back to 1750, before we even became a nation. They were sending swarms of bar attorneys over here in order to destroy our judicial processes, because we were a natural law courts, common law courts, natural law courts, same thing, back then, and they had to destroy that. The king had to get rid of that, and I'm not too sure, but not long after that is when, and it might have been before that, when Benjamin Franklin was a thorn in the side of the king, and that was probably before, and I'm sure he wasn't the only one, and of course that was the solution, was to deal with the courts so that they can prosecute, because they were having problems prosecuting. But anyway, our court system has been tampered with from the very beginning, before we were even a nation. It's all over the place. I mean, there are some states that I've heard, and I'm not going to say this is a fact, but I've heard I need to look into this, that there are some states that don't even have, for instance, grand juries. I know they've been trying to get rid of grand juries for a very long time. I know back in the 30s, there was a big movement trying to get rid of grand juries. I know that fight took place in New York, and thankfully they didn't succeed in that, but nevertheless they still have taken control of the grand juries. They get their ham sandwich. People should be insulted by that, but that's what they get. They're going to get their will done by the people, put a ring in their nose and drag them along because they're ignorant. They only know what they're told, and not what they should know, and therefore they go along with the government, which really going along with the deep state. They're going along with that illegal, unlawful, de facto government that rose up in 1871. So, all right, hopefully I answered all of that. Is there another question? Jan, is there any other questions there?
Yes. This next question is open to anyone here tonight, as well as yourself and Terry and Eric and so on. Now, this person is looking for a trust book that he found on the website preview.png, Information Peer Common Law Trust. The PDF document, and it only covers 27 pages out of the 334 pages in the book. Now, this person has been trying to find where they can get a copy of the book. There's no ISBN number of author, and he cannot find it by doing a title search. Does anybody here have any idea where he might find a copy of this?
What was the name of the book, did they say?
It's Information Peer Common Law Trust.
Yeah, I don't know where they got that, but we do have information on common law trusts.
It's a book.
I'm sorry?
It's a book.
Yeah, that's out there, and I wouldn't call those common law trusts because it's put together by bar attorneys. I have seen some. Maybe there's something out there that wasn't put together by a bar attorney that does have the true common law in play. But I have put some things together that are available, that people can download. You can find it under Education Starts Here. Come down to Law, and then come over and highlight court forms and process. You'll come to this page. Not too sure how, it's not too far down, just a little bit down from the top. Right here you'll read common law trusts. And so you can get information. Now this is a common law trust, and it's an article of organization bylaws. I don't know how much you can really trust in all of this. I've gone through some of this. It looks pretty good, and it's only 17 pages, so it's not really anything big. Putting together a revocable trust, okay, you can download some information on that. That's in Microsoft Word, and that'll give you a lot of information on that. Trying to see how many pages. So this is just basically the framework of putting together a common law trust. Okay, so this is kind of a worksheet to develop the trust. What you have to be careful about with developing a trust is, I know when I tried to open up bank accounts, and of course you got to get an EIN number to open up a bank account and for a trust. And the banks, every bank I went to, they wanted me to, let them know who the, look at the papers that they don't need to see who the beneficiaries are. And of course I would refuse to share anything beneficiary. And so that was a problem. I did end up in a bank, and I think they presumed I was a corp, even though I gave them the papers as a trust, and they opened up an account. So, that's how I was able to get account on a common law trust. So it's a little difficult because they have blocked us in every way to do the things that we want to do under the law of the land, which is the natural law, common law. And the trust is separated from, the corporate point of view of a trust. So anyway, we do have a lot of information on it, and well enough information to be able to do your own trust. Here's some information on a pure common law trust. Okay, now this is a 27-page paper, and again, I'd be very careful.
That's what he's referring to, John.
Okay, well, this particular information here, you got to take it with a grain of salt because you got to lean onto the common law side of things. Again, we're back to a lawyer on this, but it has a lot of great information on it, a lot of good information, and. But you got to remember, we're free and independent people. We can think and do what we please. We don't have to get permission from anyone. But when you start to live life that way, you get a lot of resistance, and you get a lot of people trying to prevent you from doing the things that you want to do, because ignorance, on the one hand, mostly by lawyers, because they are, in fact, whether they know it or not, the minions of the New World Order. They have total control over everything, total control over our court system, total control over our political process. They used to have total control over the administration. Well, they don't have it now at this point in time. Hopefully they'll never get it back. Hopefully we'll get rid of this bar association problem. They've taken total control over education, and Trump has put a block onto that. They've total control over our economy, and Trump has taken that back. So he's working all the big stuff. He's handling the big stuff to give it all back up to the people. But you get back to the same problem from the very beginning when an individual asked Benjamin Franklin, as the story goes, once they finalized the government that we were going to have, so what do we have? And his answer was a republic, if you can keep it. If a people expect to be ignorant and free, Thomas Jefferson said, they expect what never was and never will be. You can't have a natural law republic, which is what we're supposed to have. You can't have that unless the people are educated, properly educated, from right through grammar school right on up, and people understanding that liberty has to be defended, that the Constitution has to be defended and protected. And government can't do that. Only the people can do that, because government will just gain more and more power and ignore more and more that they can get away with, and we just end up right back to where we've been. We almost lost everything here. I don't know how much people really realize we almost lost this nation. Right now, we should be out in the streets fighting it out, literally, if Trump wasn't elected. I think there'd be a civil war, and that's where we're at. And it would really be the government against the people, not so much as a civil war as the people against the people. But you always have the ignorant, the stupid people. The stupid people quite often are bright. Quite often they may be doctors, they could be lawyers, they could be lots of things. But just because they're intelligent in that fashion, when it comes to common sense, and particularly who we are as a people under common law, they're stupid. And this is what we're up. Our battle is up against stupid. That's who our battle is up against. And it's unfortunate that most of the people in government are stupid, dumb. They're ignorant to who we are. They're ignorant to the law. They're ignorant to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. They're ignorant to the way things should be going. And then they all make it up as they go, like the courts do. I've been in so many courts; it's just makes my head spin thinking about it. But everything's a conflict, and everything is different. Whatever benefits them is the solution, and it's really disgusting, a problem, and that problem will not be fixed until the people step up to do something about it, and that begins with an education. And of course, therein is the reason for National Liberty Alliance to give that education. So we have a lot of problems that we need to fix. anyway, the information that person is searching for, that's all I have. And again, I would take this with a grain of salt. You'd want to be careful and compare this with, for instance, creating a revocable trust. This is a common law trust that we have, but there's other information here that is valuable. But you have to look at. I would suggest very strongly to take the law course. We have that law course that people can take. You can find that under Education Starts Here, and it's called Court Access in the Common Law course. Because it gives you the proper mindset. We talk about natural law in there, the fact that we are a republic, who we cover by what authorities and powers that they can act by, and the powers of Congress. Statutes and the U.S. codes are very important. The problem is they place the people under those codes, place the people under statutes, particularly under U.S.C. 18, and I believe 28 also. And that has incarcerated us in a sense. We're in a statutory prison is what we're in, and they always look for violations and just keep taking our money, and if necessary, they take our liberty. But you have to have common sense. Everything you look at here, you have to have common sense, and you have to have a free mind to think. You have to think free, and when you start thinking free, then you start acting free. And that's going against the grain. It's going against the winds of the day. Although I think it's a time that we can recapture all that, but it's up to the people to do that. It's always been up to the people to do that. Our founding, particularly Jefferson, was concerned and felt that we were going to lose this nation because of ignorance. And factions. Factions are political parties. That was the word that our founding fathers used, was factions. So, as a matter of fact, that's what I want to get into tonight. Is there any other questions, Jen?
No, that was the last one.
Okay. All right. We wrote a paper. We've been speaking about this. We spoke a couple of weeks ago. I saw John was here. Let me see if I can unmute him. Hey, John, you're unmuted there. Did we ever hear back from the court? Did they ever call you back? John, can you hear us? Well, maybe he's away from his computer. I'll grab him when he gets back. Wait a second. Maybe he's not unmuted. Let me try again. Jan, can you see if you can unmute John?
Can you hear me now?
There you go. We can hear you.
Okay. I was muted on my side. No, I have not. I was going to ask you about that. I haven't heard anything from the guy.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to, be honest with you. I really don't. And I think we just have to move along.
Have we sent the letter out yet?
No, not yet. I'd like to try to do it this week, maybe. Matter of fact, I'm kind of prepared to be able to do it this week. The letter is done. I'm going to share it. I'm going to send a copy over to Jan. We did read it, goodness, I think a week or two ago.
Right.
Probably 2 I think. And I'm going to send a copy of that and another paper I just finished to Jan. He's going to share it with an individual who is going to assist us and maybe give us some thoughts and ideas. Maybe we'll alter the paper somewhat and we'll get another mind on this thing. But the paper we wrote was the fact that, and I'm not going to get into that tonight particularly, but it's a response to the United States Supreme Court with their stupid, and I'm not saying this to just to be mean or anything, or to just use words that I can't even think of the words I really want to say. But the bottom line is this: they are stupid. They're dumb. I don't know. Maybe they're not so dumb. Maybe they think we're dumb. And I don't know how they might think that, because I think our papers are pretty powerful and strong. But they try to frustrate us, I think, is what they're doing. And they send these stupid responses that makes no sense in the world. And we've read those responses. As a matter of fact, maybe after tonight's program, anybody that hasn't seen those responses or read the papers, you can download it here on the front page. You can read the presentment to the U.S. Supreme Court, which we send with a cover letter, okay? And you can read the response letter from the Supreme Court to doorkeeper. And you can also read the response letter going back to the doorkeeper. So we've already covered those things over the past weeks. So we're not going to necessarily read or look into that. But, of course, if people have any questions, thoughts, or ideas about that, it's open for discussion tonight. We did open the queue for those a little while ago. It's a *6 and a 1 if you're on a phone to get into the queue. The queue is open. And if you're on an app or browser, you can just get in by pushing a button there somewhere in the app or browser. John, I'm going to leave you open if you want to pipe in from time to time, but just keep yourself muted when you're not talking. I don't know if you want to add anything before I move on.
Well, John, I don't think they're stupid. I don't know if they're dumb or stupid, but the thing about it is that we don't have any idea if any of the judges have seen that.
No, they haven't.
Well, they try to send it back to us. Those people don't get to be clerks in the Supreme Court by being stupid.
That's true, but if you talk a lie, then you're stupid.
Okay, then maybe they're stupid, but they're not dumb. Maybe they're dumb, but they're not stupid. I'm not sure what the bottom line is. They know, John.
They are bright. They are bright. There's no doubt about it. They've got a high education, and to be in that position and working in the Supreme Court, they have to understand the processes. But of course, they've been brainwashed like any other bar attorney. They believe the lie. They believe we're under Roman law. I believe that they believe they're under Roman law. We're under Roman law. That's what they believe. That becomes a major problem. Now, we come with information that they're not familiar with, but they know it rings true. And if they give it any thought, which I don't think they would, but if they did, they'd find out it is true. And because we're under natural law, we're a natural law republic. We're not a democracy, and this is the major problems we have. But from that standpoint, they're stupid. But I think they got the gist of what we're saying, and they know. But they write stupid things because they have nothing else to write.
They're on thin ice. They're on very, very thin ice, John.
Oh, of course. I think the ice is so thin. If they were placed in the proper position when it was fully, melted up, they'd be hanging, because this is, subversion against the United States. They're participating in the process, and the Bar Association is guilty of that. And there is a code up there that requires jail time for people who are putting forward any kind of information, flyers, having groups coming together talking about things that are subversive. Communism is subversive. Thank God Trump is seeing that, and he's going to do something about it. But that goes even beyond that. I mean, there's all kinds of different groups and political groups that are not, that cannot really meld in together with who we are as a people. The Constitution is clear. The government, all three branches, are to guarantee, that's the key word, guarantee a Republican form of government. And I'll use the word in theory, but from my position it's in fact, but I'll use the word in theory. In theory, anybody who's pushing a democracy within our government is guilty of treason, because they're trying to change who we are as a people. They're trying to change the structure of government. There's no democracy in who we are as a people. The word doesn't exist in our founding documents. And our founding fathers were very clear, particularly in Federalist Paper number 10. And I think Anti-Federalist Paper number 10 also, I think is the same number. They talked about democracies and the problems of democracies. And it was a government that they wanted no part of. And of course, democracies require a two-party system or more. Two parties works perfect for them. They go back and forth, right to left. So that's what they created, and that's the problem, and that's going to be the subject matter of the paper I'm going to be talking about shortly.
Well, if we have a two-party system in this country, the Republicans are one of them, okay?
Say that again?
If we have a two-party system in this country, the Republicans are one of them.
Well, the Republic should be the only one.
The Republicrats.
Listen, if
The
you...
Democrats, Republicans, they're the same damn party, John.
Absolutely, absolutely. But the point is this, if we didn't have political parties, what would happen if people elected people to go to represent them in Washington? Let's look at, sending people to the federal government, to represent us. What would happen? There'd be no party bosses, so there's no party orders, there's no party control. So guess what? They would then be going in and representing the will of the people, their constituents.
Here's a question I have. You're talking about this response to the letter from the Supreme Court. Have you ever talked to Brent Winters about that? He'd be a resource I don't think we've tapped yet. What does he think about that?
You know what? I tried calling him. I left a message. It sounded like he had changed his phone number because someone else answered, and it was a recording. I'll talk with you later about that.
All right.
All my information on Brent went with when we lost our communication program. I had all that information. I had his email and everything. I should probably have his email somewhere.
I could probably find it through Dar, just to let you know that. So I know Dar did a lot of work with him.
Well, do you have Brent's phone number?
I don't, but I'm sure I can get it from Dar, as I'm saying.
Yeah, if you could, and get it to me, because I should call Brent. I should probably have his... Well, I can go out to his website and get his email. I can send him a copy of the papers, and he keeps sending me a lot of information because he's running that course right now I think, what is it, the Declaration of Independence? He's running that course on.
I'm not sure about that one, but
I'm pretty sure that's what he's running. I haven't been able to go into those courses. It's during the day, and I'm always busy during the day doing things I have to do, and it's hard for me. I do have recordings, but finding time is a problem.
We've all got 24 hours a day, John. It just depends how much one sleep.
Yeah, I need a couple of more hours, though. But in any event, yeah, I should run this through Brent and see once what he has to say.
I can assure you they're not stupid. They're either dumb or stupid, but they're not both. And obviously they haven't read anything. And it's their, it's like playing hide and seek with a mother and a two-year-old son or baby. Okay, she keeps putting her hands in front of her eyes so you can't see them. They can't see, but they can see. Trust me, they can see, and they're scared.
We're giving them truth that they cannot deny.
Right.
We footnote everything. We're giving them truth they cannot deny. We're giving them Supreme Court rulings they cannot deny. We're giving them, Federalist Papers, the Anti-Federalist Papers, commentary from our founding fathers, letters between themselves. We're giving them all that stuff. You cannot deny that. Yet, there's something, there was a, excuse me, there was a study done recently. I just caught this on TV just recently on YouTube or something, and where they took 12 people, okay, and 11 of the people were in on this thing, and they asked them a question, and they gave them the potential of four different things, A, B, C, or D, and they started from one person all the way through the 11th person, and they all came up with the same wrong answer. That was the point. The last person was the independent person who didn't know that they were being snookered, And what did they do? They chose the same answer that those people chose. Even though, and after, when they found out that it was a setup, they said, I really knew what the right answer was. I don't know why I went, because people they were sheeple. By nature, we are sheeple. We need to break away from being sheeple. And from being controlled. We need to think free and independent and be it. But first you have to think it before you can execute it. Okay? And so that's what the people have to do. But that's where it's at. It's just the thing with lawyers. They're taught, first of all, they come up from a horrible education, especially these days now, going through the first 12 years. And then they go into these colleges, and they're fed all these lies about who we are as a people, and what kind of law that we're fashioned under the Roman Empire, and that we're under Roman law. I mean, these people believe this because that's what they were taught. After all, they might have spent $40,000, $50,000, $80,000 for their education, or whatever, $100,000 for their education. They can't be wrong. They must know what they're talking about. At least that's what's in their mind. And then when they confronted with the truth, they can't digest it. They can't take it in. They still stay and run with the lie. And they continue their lives running with the lie. And that's what's going on. They know the truth, but they run with the lie. And they don't have an answer, and that's why they gave us the stupidity that they gave us. That paper was nothing but stupidity.
It was stupidity. It was stupidity. Yep. I mean...
And that was chosen to be that way because, they haven't got the guts to stand up to the truth.
If
anyway.
If you look closely at the way they wrote that, though, they wrote that with tongue-in-cheek on the thing. They admitted who they were. They made all kinds of different things in the thing. I mean, the fact that they said that we received your letter on June 4th, of the demand. And then they said the suit is not a suit. They knew exactly what they were doing, John. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Well, right in the beginning, it was quite clear on what kind of a paper that was and what that was all about and who was sending. It was very quite clear. So it was a presentment, and they know what a presentment is. And a presentment, a presentment is really, coming from a grand jury. Presentment comes without an indictment. It comes with information concerning something unlawful and bringing it to the attention of, in this case, the Supreme Court to do something. And
if they don't give it to them, they're breaking the law. And the law applies to them. It doesn't apply to us. It applies to them.
Well, think about this. Our founding fathers were clear about political parties, and again, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to spend about 15 minutes on this. But just as kind of leading into this, they were very clear on the problem with parties. They wanted no part of parties. And what happens? A party arose immediately, and the battle was on. Jefferson was pissed off about this, really upset. And when he became president, he said, hey, look, we are all of us, we're all Federalists, and we're all Republicans. He was trying to stop the nonsense, but it kept going on. And who the Federalists became later on in the beginning of the the 1800s, I think it was 1819, it might have been 1801, it might have been very early on, I don't remember exactly when. But the Federalists disappeared, and they morphed into the Democratic Party, which is the party of slavery. Just what the reason why we have the slavery problem in our Constitution, which refers to 3/5 of a man, okay, the reason that is there is because of the Federalists. And Jefferson was upset with that because, we're all Federalists. We all agree that we need a federal government, okay? And we needed to construct and build that federal government, but the states had to be free and independent governments also. And that's the structure we did get. But one of the flaws of the Constitution, which I think is one of the curses upon America that God has put upon us because we lived with it, was to permit slavery to continue and to allow that 3/5 of a man, statement in the Constitution. Now, the Republican Party began 1 year before Lincoln became a president. And when the Republican Party formed, Lincoln joined the Republican Party. He may have been involved in bringing it together also, but he was the main focus of the Republican Party was to get rid of slavery. They knew it had, and that's why
it was the Whigs, and the Republican Party was started in Jackson, Michigan. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, and that was 1 year, I understand, before Lincoln became president. Mm-hmm. So it's the Republican Party that was moving to get rid of slavery. It was the Democrat Party that kept maintaining slavery, keeping the conversation going, keeping the separation, the arguments, the debates between black and white. They just kept it going, kept it going. Anyway, it's a mess.
They tried. I mean, they kicked it when they made the Constitution. They pushed it down 20 years. They wanted to have the decision made by 20 years because there was a lot of contention, obviously, at the Constitutional Convention. But they did set up Liberia over in Africa, so if the slaves wanted to go back to Africa, they could do that. And I believe the capital of Liberia is Monrovia. So I mean, it was named after James Monroe. Okay. It's interesting you read the history back in there, but they fought against that all the way up through the Civil War.
Right.
There's a lot going on there. There's a lot going on there.
That was a major reason for the Civil War. You know, the fact that some of the states wanted to separate themselves from the Union because of that debate, and I'm sure other things also, you know, that it was really all about the economy for them with slavery. And so it was a couple of southern states that had caused that whole problem. All right, but anyway.
I'll yield. I'll let you go on, but I mean, yeah, thank you.
All right, yeah, just mute yourself. If you want to pipe in, you're welcome.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we've written these papers. We've written the presentment. Again, I'm on the front page. I'm looking at anybody that I'm sharing a front page, you know, on the program here. If you're on a phone, you don't see it, but anybody that's signed in on an app or browser, you do see it. And of course, all of our programs are put up on both YouTube and on Rumble. So this will be up and people can see it visually if they want to by going out to YouTube or Rumble. And you can find that on the right-hand side of our page here. You'll find YouTube and you'll find Rumble. You can click on it and find us. But in any event, again, if you haven't read it or you haven't heard it being read, you need to read the presentment to the United States Supreme Court. That's the issue that we're discussing here. And we had a cover letter for that. And that cover letter really was for the administration because we copied Trump and his administration. I think it was about 40-some-odd people, 42 people, something like that. Then we posted the response letter from the SCOTUS doorkeeper, from Supreme Court doorkeepers. And then our response letter, which we have not sent out yet, is going to be going to SCOTUS. And I'm going to do that this week. I don't remember whether I wrote a paper, or, you know, a letter, an introductory letter or not to Trump and his administration as a cover letter for the letter we're going to be sending to SCOTUS, you know, to the doorkeeper of SCOTUS. So I have to look to see if we got that. But I will post that when that's done or if I have it already. And tonight, this week, I put together I wrote a paper. It takes 15 minutes to read. I posted it up on YouTube and Rumble, so it's available up there on YouTube and Rumble. So I'm going to play this 15-minute, YouTube, which is really reading the paper. That's what it is. And there's no need for me to read it right now. I can just play it because I've already read it. And that paper is going to go out as an attachment to the papers that we're going to be sending to Trump and his administration. I think it's one of the most important things that we need to do, we need to fix. The two-party system, okay, and the Bar Association, okay, the court system, which is civil law system. We need to move it back to a natural law system. Those are the three major problems that we have. And these three problems cannot be solved by Trump. I think Trump can initiate some of this, but it's up to the people to really step up and work it. And if they don't, then we're not going to accomplish our goal. And by the way, people should be sharing our information, these Monday night programs with others, bringing people to these Monday night programs, helping us grow, getting our information out on social media. I did post this paper up on X. I posted it actually as the YouTube. I might go and post the paper on its own, just as the paper also. So I might do that on X. I don't get involved in social media, but I did join X, and I don't really put time into reading things. I take a quick look at things, but really I try to post things. If anybody's on X, they should connect with us on X, and follow us and help push the stuff that we're pushing here. All the information is important for people to have and to know. So it's up to the people to get the word out, to get this going. We can only do so much here, and we need the people's response on this, the people's activity. So anyway, let's play this, and then after this is played, we're going to move right over into an open forum, which the open forum right now, Q&A session is open. We don't have anyone in Q&A right now, so people might want to get into the Q&A right now. But when we finish reading this 15-minute paper, then we'll open up the queue and take questions or comments or corrections or whatever you have to offer. But I'd like to try to keep the conversation focused in on the subject matter, particularly that we're going to be looking at tonight. So here it is, up on YouTube. It's labeled Political Party Bosses versus the People. Political parties. Should an elected representative's decision-making be governed by a consideration of the will of their constituency coupled with common sense, or party bosses? Today, in the 21st century, as government is increasingly for sale to the highest bidders, as foreign and multinational corporations and individuals compete to line the pockets of politicians and political parties to accommodate and purchase protection or privilege for their special interests, whereas it is far too easy to corrupt a few party bosses that control entire parties. A good example today is the Battle to Pass the Save America Act, where polls show upward of 80% of the people support, while the entire Democrat Party in both houses, regardless of the will of the people, refused to pass it. Thomas Jefferson said, "My God, how little do my countrymen know what precious blessings they are in possession of, and which no other people on earth enjoy." Key arguments in favor of a two-party system. The main position supporting the two-party system in the United States over a no-party system claim arguments from political scientists, historians, and observers of the United States system, influenced by Duvinger's law, a French socialist named Maurice Duvinger, which I think tells us everything we really need to know. The following. Number one, stability and divisive governance. Two parties enable clear majorities and efficient lawmaking without the chaos of thousands of independents negotiating every bill. Two, clear voter choices and accountability. Voters get distinct platforms and easy alternatives. One party can be held responsible, unlike fragmented independents. Three, moderation and broad appeal. Parties must build big tent coalitions, pulling towards the center and diluting extremists, better than pure independents amplifying narrow views. Four, organized representation. Parties structure elections, mobilize voters, and organize legislators efficiently. A no-party system risks disorganization and gridlock. 5. Practical experience. The U.S. two-party system has delivered long-term stability and power alternation, while pure no-party governance is rare and often unstable at scale. 6. Two parties balance competition and coherence far better than atomized independence. Key arguments for a no-party system. Core arguments from the founders, which were deeply skeptical of political parties, also known as factions. They saw parties. Yeah, I'm kind of, I try to stay away from being paranoid about this situation. Sometimes awkward things happen and you think, well, oh, they're doing this or they're doing that. But I do believe whatever's going on is someone did shut us down. That was very weird, and that was it. They shut us down.
Got their attention.
We're going to get that going up again. All right. I think we'll get going. All right. So I'm going to pick. I just backed it up a little bit to start off on the key arguments in favor of a two-party system. Uh, since we've been stopped a moment, let me just back up a little bit here. Well, this is the key arguments in the favor of a two-party system. They say the two-party system gives stability and decisive governance. I mean, is that a joke or what? I mean, are these people serious? Anybody who's paying attention, that's unfortunate things. A lot of people aren't paying attention. You know, it gives the voter a clear choices and accountability. Has anybody seen these parties be required to give their accountability? Because they don't. Okay. Moderation and broad appeal. Well, I don't know about that. Organized representation, and that is the problem. Organized representation, that is the problem. Practical experience, experience in screwing the people over, and a two-party balance, coherent, far better than atomized independence. So I mean, their position here is really, pathetic. It's pathetic. Let's go back to the other word. It's stupid. Okay, so we're going to pick the recording up where we were cut off and shut down, and we'll pick it up at the beginning of the next position. So here we go. Oh, wait, hold it. Let me make sure I have the recording going and going properly. Okay, we should be sharing the screen. You can see the screen, everybody, right?
Little man.
Okay, let me just check the recording, make sure. Okay, the recording is now started. And let me move over to Q&A mode. So anybody wants to get into the queue, star 6 and 1 if you're on a phone. Should be a button there for an Apple browser. Okay, we're gonna pick up here the key arguments for a no-party system, which we were just starting to read when we were rudely interrupted. Here we go. Key arguments for a no-party system. Core arguments from the founders, which were deeply skeptical of political parties, also known as factions. They saw parties as divisive forces that prioritized power, loyalty, and self-interest over the common good. In 1796, George Washington, in his farewell address, warned us that through the course of time, cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men would subvert the power of the people and seize for themselves the reins of government. That would be the Committeeman, also known as the Committees of Safety, through private associations, also known as political parties, and our courts. He went on to tell us that once they seized the reins of power, the parties that would arise would, number one, destroy the very engine, the political process, which have lifted them up to unjust dominion. 2, destroy the regular deliberation and action of the constituted authorities. 3, open the door to foreign influence and corruption. Thus, the policy and the will of one country will be subjected to the policy and the will of another. 4, serve to organize division. 5, ruin public liberty. 6, stifle control and repress. 7, foment occasional riots and insurrection. 8, kindle animosity of one part against another. 9, put in place of the delegated will of the nation the will of the party elite. 10, agitate the community with ill-founded jealousies and false alarms. 11, undermine the Constitution, which could not be directly overthrown. 12, distract the public councils and enfeeble the public administration. 13, drive the spirit of revenge, leads to despotism. Washington concluded, parties are truly your worst enemy. James Madison in Federalist Number 10 acknowledged small factions as inevitable due to human nature, but argued a large republic and checks and balances could control these effects. Our founders generally viewed organized parties as dangerous amplifiers of factionalism. Parties were seen as relics of corrupt monarchical systems, example, British Tories versus the Whigs, that could subvert the separation of powers, turn representatives into party tools instead of servants of the people, and prioritize ambition over virtue. Today, in the 21st century, as government is increasingly for sale to the highest bidders, as foreign and multinational corporations and individuals compete to line the pockets of politicians and political parties to accommodate and purchase protection or privilege for the special interests, whereas it is far too easy to corrupt a few party bosses that control entire parties. A good example today is the battle to pass the Save America Act, where polls show upward of 80% of the people's support, while the entire Democratic Party in both houses, regardless of the will of the people, refused to pass it. Our Constitution provided for a government that united the states as one unique nation, where no state is deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. But insidious factions within all three branches of our government have conspired and have succeeded in depriving every state its equal suffrage, destroying all balances of power between the states through the passing as the law the repugnant 17th Amendment, a law specifically and explicitly forbidden by the Constitution itself under Article 5. No state, without its consent, shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. We are not a democracy. We are a natural law republic, thereby governed by the laws of nature and of nature's God, which brings us under the rules of natural law, which simply is common sense. To combine our political process with political parties is like trying to mix oil with water. There are two types of democracy. Number one, everyone gets to vote on everything, which is not only absurd, but impossible. Number two, representatives are elected to Congress who vote the will of the party bosses without any restrictions on power placed upon them in our Constitution, just like they do today because they just ignore the Constitution. After all, they have convinced the people we are a democracy. So they debate away our liberties as they financially enrich and empower themselves, as they slowly move us to socialism. And once that iron grip on power is fully accomplished, there is no escape. No natural law republic can survive operating as a democracy. Welcome to hell. There are about 160 republics, whereas the 50 United States are the only natural law republics in the world, second only to Israel, established around 1400 BC. The Constitution for the United States lays out the people's will. Congress is not to make law outside of the 18 powers that we, the people, ordained and established, and said powers are to be governed by the rules of natural law. Under a no-party system, when a member of Congress proposes a bill, members simply read the bill, open for discussion, and then vote on it. It's that simple. It's not complex. And if a representative consistently makes decisions outside the will of their constituency, coupled with common sense, the people can vote them out and, if necessary, recall them. The way our founding fathers envisioned it. In the preamble of our Constitution, we the people ordained and established that the main purpose of government is to establish justice and to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. We are not under Roman law as barristers would have us to believe. We are not a democracy, as tyrants would have us to believe. We are not a godless nation, as atheists would have us to believe. Whereas we are in fact a common law republic, a Christian nation, under the laws of nature and of nature's God. Thomas Jefferson summed it up when he said, "My God, how little do my countrymen know what precious blessings they are in possession of, and which no other people on earth enjoy." While trying to discover a form of government, John Adams wrote that democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There was never a democracy that did not commit suicide. Our founding fathers reviled democracy and gave their posterity a republic. As Thomas Jefferson said, the Republican is the only form of government which is not eternally at open or secret war with the rights of mankind. Edmund Burke said, "Of this I am certain, that in a democracy the majority of the citizens is capable of exercising the most cruel oppression upon the minority." Thomas Jefferson said, "A democracy is nothing more than mob rule, where 51% of the people may take away the rights of the other 49%. Benjamin Franklin said, "Democracy is two wolves and a lamb voting on what to have for lunch. Liberty is a well-armed lamb contesting the vote." Winston Churchill said, "The best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter." Aristotle said, "Unlimited democracy is just like oligarchy, a tyranny spread over a large number of people." Federalist number 1, Hamilton, "The necessity of a government at least equally energetic with the one proposed to the attainment of this object, the conformity of the proposed Constitution to the true principles of a republican government in its equivalence to our state constitution." Federalist number 10, Madison, "Democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths." Anti-Federalist number 10, "True Democrats are in general fanatics and enthusiasts and some few sensible, charming madmen." Anti-Federalist number 74, "There is not a tincture of democracy in the proposed Constitution, except the nominal elections. Every free man of America ought to hold up this idea to himself, that he is no superior but God and the laws." In conclusion, we constantly hear congressmen, senators, presidents, political commentators, news media, and even the United States Supreme Court justices refer to America as a democracy. Are our elected servants that ignorant of our Constitution, our history, and our heritage? Or is there a methodical, covert conspiracy hell-bent on destroying our republic? Just how close are we? I think the following says it all when President Barack Obama, during the 2016 White House Correspondents' Dinner, while he predicted Hillary Clinton's presidency in 2017, said, "The end of the republic has never looked better." Let that sink in. We're at the crossroads. The Democrat Party is about to implode, and majority of the people are listening. It's time to make the case to honor the will and wisdom of our founding fathers and return home to a natural law republic, our true home, under the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right. Well, that's the paper I wrote. I may form it together as a memorandum and attach it to the letter that we'll be sending in to President Trump and his entire administration. I've been listening over the months that we've been doing this, maybe the last 6 months or so, maybe even a little longer, actually, because we sent a lot of papers up there. And from time to time, I'd hear a few little things that making me think that, hey, these people are starting to understand. Or maybe they've always understood, and they're just playing along with the system until eventually they're able to bring back things, bring us back to a republic, get rid of the Bar Association, clean up the courts, and give us back courts of records again, which is a court of natural law. But even if he's capable of doing this with his administration, and I pray that he is. I pray, because that makes it a lot easier for us. But it's up to the people to educate themselves and to make sure our children, our posterity, have a proper education to be able to maintain it, to keep a republic, to know how to run a republic, to understand how to have government by the consent. I wrote a book, and it's available, Government by Consent. It's a pretty thick book. It's like 550 pages. Tremendous amount of information in it, and it lays out who we are as a people, and gives a solution, which is committees of safety, people building committees of safety within their counties. I also wrote a book recently, another book. Let me see if I even posted it up here yet. I think I did. Some people told me it's a big book, people aren't going to read it, and maybe that's true. And I have talked to people who've got the book, who've been reading it, but they've been reading it for a long time and they're still not done. I thought, well, maybe I should write a book similar, but with less information and just getting right to the certain points. But I think really a better education is going through Government by Consent, and getting that book. But the book I recently put up here is Make America a Republic Again. Okay? Now that particular book really kind of just I don't want to say waters down. It doesn't water down, but it breaks down and focuses in on the problem and the solution more precisely and specifically without getting into a higher education, if I may use that. Also, since we're looking at books, I wrote a book, Court Access in the Common Law. We also have a education where we offer people court access in the common law course. Let me open that up in the tab just real quick. And you could take this course. You get the first 3 or 4 hours of the course for free, so you can kind of get the flavor, the taste of the course. And we also list, of course, what's covered, the table of contents, which is quite involved. It's a 90-hour course, and if you would go to college to get court process, civics, to learn that in college, it's goodness, what was it? I forget how many credits it was, but it would run you about $13,000 just for that one part of the course. And it's a 60-hour course, and they don't teach the common law, and they teach, of course, that we're under the Roman law. So these are all the subject matters that we cover in this course, and people should consider that. But again, I got a book on that, Court Access in the Common Law. I always suggest that you do both, because to have that book is good. But all of the things, information that we have in that course is downloadable. All kinds of paperwork, different forms, different things, the process and the procedures of the courts, everything can be downloaded. And once you go into the course, it's there permanently. Anytime you come to the website, you can get into that course. And of course, if you want to download everything, you can download everything. Memorandums of Common Law. I wrote a book, Understanding the Federal Courts. I've done a book on the study of parables in the book of Revelation, A Harmony of the Gospels. What Must I Do to Be Saved? When is the Rapture? And written quite a few handbooks, common law handbooks, 227 pages. I think these books are, about $10 or something. They're not expensive. They're pocket handbooks. I wrote a common law grand jury handbook, a common law petit jury handbook, a committee of safety pocket, committeeman pocket handbook, county committee of safety organizing pocket handbook, county sheriff pocket handbook, good to be given to your sheriffs, founding documents pocket handbook, and common law pocket handbook, common law court pocket handbook. That book here I wrote many years ago. It's 301 pages. It's a very thick pocket handbook, and but I wrote that specifically for myself for when I go into courts that have at my thumb, so to speak, information, codes, quotes, law, just a lot of great information. And then I thought, I should put that into a book, and so I put it into a handbook. People can stick it in their pocket or whatever, and you can find a lot of information off the fly, Supreme Court rulings, a lot of stuff, really great stuff. So anyway, this is the education people should have. I know it's a lot, it's overwhelming, but like anything else, you spend a little time here and there as time goes on. You get through that book, or you get through that information, you get through that course, and before you know it, you've gone through everything over a couple of years, or whatever the case may be. I mean, if you're an individual who really wants to really suck in all this knowledge, I mean, you can just jump right into it, and get through a lot of these things very quickly. And then you always got those books as references, so that's very good for that. But anyway, let me get back to where we're at here, which I kind of forgot exactly where I'm at. The bottom line, though, is we're going to be sending this paper in to the administration with the other paperwork that we're working on. Once we send it in, we'll talk a little bit about it more. If I get through it this week, I hope I do. If I do, we'll talk about it on Monday. If it takes me to the next week to get it all out, then we'll talk about it on the following Monday. And hopefully, we'll get things moving and get it done. But if the people expect to be ignorant and free, forget about it. Not going to happen, not possible. If people are not interested, then they're not interested in saving our republic. They're not interested in maintaining our unalienable rights for yourself and your posterity. We owe it to our children. Just like our founding fathers did for us, we should do for our children. They wrote this for themselves and their posterity. We are their posterity. And we should, the committees of safety is a very powerful thing to get started in your county. Take control of every government agency within your state, and even the representatives that go to Washington. You could take control of your state legislators and the state senates. You could take control of the education for our children. Each county has a focus to take control of all of the sub-governments in that county, cities, towns, villages, and so on. And all the school districts within that county. And if everyone is doing that in their counties, then we take control of the whole country. They took the Committee of Safety process, called it the Committeeman, and the Committee of Safety, the people that make up the Committees of Safety are the Committeemen. They're the true Committeemen. But they took that Committeeman process and they statutorized it. They controlled it. They placed party bosses on every county level and every state level and on the federal level. They've stolen it from us. They've taken it. They've stolen our education. They've stolen everything. They've stolen our God ultimately too. They demoralize our children in school. They learn about woke. Children don't know whether they're boys or girls. It's a serious problem we have in school, and this has been going on for quite some time. I went out on the 4th of July and was handing out a flyer. Matter of fact, here's a flyer. This flyer could be handed at any time. People should download this flyer and hand it out, introducing people to a proper education. And when I made 300 of them, and I went out and I was able to get to all 300. It was really hot. I thought I was going to die, sweating and everything. But anyway, I got them all out. And I was naive enough to think I could come home and run a couple hundred more and go back out, but I couldn't. But in any event, as I was handing this out, I saw children that were at an age I perceived that could read, and I gave them also a copy of this flyer, as well as their parents and all the people around. And I asked these children if they say the Pledge of Allegiance in school. The answer was no. Think about that. We don't say the Pledge of Allegiance in school. Now, maybe there are schools, I'm sure there are, okay, schools that still say it, but not where I'm at. And that's pretty sad, a sad thing. They're being taught communism. They're being taught to be demoralized. Suicide in children, I hear, is really has gone through the roof. Okay, that's what I've heard, and I can understand why. They have no God. They took the Bible out of the school. I mean, what do you have? You have no hope if you have no God. You just have no hope at all. Zero. That's why tonight I played Romans chapter 1, because there is no excuse. God is clear just by looking at creation. And it's just clear. And then looking at the Godhead, looking at the Christ. It's clear. Anybody who truly says in their heart, let me go see what's really going on, they can only come to one conclusion unless they're biased as they go in and is just bent on denial. And they're not going to read very far anyway or look very far into it. But we have a problem, and it's the people's problem. Trump is going to do a great thing. Don't think that Trump's going to save us, because the only thing he's going to do is put things back to place. It's up to you to save us, not him, because his presidency is going to end, things are going to move on, and people don't get educated, and they don't get involved, and they don't get up there to defend the Constitution, know the Constitution, understand when they're breaking the oath that they took. And understand the difference between a democracy and a republic, understand the difference between law and equity. If you don't know those things, you don't have a clue on what they're doing. People actually think they can debate away our First Amendment. Think about that. They think they can debate away our Second Amendment. Think about that. They've closed down our schools. They've closed down our churches. During that pandemic, they're itching to get another one started. Trump's is going to prevent that from happening. But again, he's not the savior. He's not the solution to everything, and we don't have to worry about it no more because Trump's got everything under control. I can go back to sleep and enjoy my life. Well, you don't deserve liberty if that's the case. Because if you're not protecting it, you're going to lose it. And everybody thinks the other guy is doing it. I'm here to tell you the other guy isn't doing it. The other guy is not doing it. So how do you know when your government's gone array if you don't know what kind of government you have? If you don't know what the Constitution says, the powers and the authorities we gave to the courts, the powers and the authorities we gave to the legislators, the powers and the authority we gave to the administrator. If you don't know those things, how can you know when they're abusing it, when they're committing treason? You can't know. They've been doing this for a long time. Before I was born, they've been working at this. This goes all the way, actually this goes all the way back, I've mentioned this numerous times, goes all the way back to 1750, before we even became a nation. But the real destruction came with the Organic Act of 1871. Okay, that's when the real structure, the beginning of the statutory prison that we live in. All they do is look for code violations. They're constantly just, constantly taking our money. You have to pay for this, you have to pay for that. You got to pay this fine or that fine, another fine. Or they put you in prison, and they make money on that too. It's all about money and power. And people don't have a clue on what these people are supposed to be doing. I'd like to put a site together one day, but we need money. Anything you do, you need money. I'd like to put a site together which defines the powers and the authorities of every single elected official, whether it be within your towns, your counties, the state, or the cities, the villages, and of course the federal government, which of course is the Constitution, and of course the Constitution of your state also. But to define the powers and the authorities of a mayor or someone representing you in a town or a village or whatever the case may be. Because people need to get educated in that. And we need to get rid of political parties. We need to get rid of the Bar Association. Those are the two most destructive things in our country. Anyway, this flyer is available. You can download it. It's on our front page. Just click on the flyer, and people should be handing that out, spreading the word, getting information to the people concerning the most important information, second to the Bible, is who we are as a people. And you know, we being a Christian nation, that's why we're so different than any other nation. We are a compassionate people because we are a Christian nation. We are one nation under God. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the Bible tells us. And our God is the Lord Jesus Christ. And we are blessed for that. We're cursed for some of the things we've been doing. We need to turn things around. But there's evil everywhere. We're not going to get rid of evil. And there's bad people everywhere. There's psychopaths and sociopaths. You know, there's all kinds of people. But generally speaking, most people are decent-minded as far as out in the open. You know, if everybody looked at their inner man, they might find something totally different, because God says the hearts of men is desperately wicked. Who could know it? And so you look into your inner man, your heart will tell you who you really are. But outwardly, we are a compassionate people. We're a decent people. We're a decent people as a nation. We're a given people. Although it's hard to give these days because they've taken so much away from us. You know, I heard that when they were building the Hoover Dam, the pay was $4 a day. People lived off of $4 a day. Think about that. Okay? And $4 a day, you can't even buy a cup of coffee and a donut. All right, I've ended with my ranting, I guess. Let me see if there's anybody in the queue. Hopefully there's someone in the queue. We got a couple people in the queue, so we'll take questions. Anybody else wants to get into the queue, it's a *6 and a 1. If you're on an app or browser, should be a button there to get into the queue. John, if you're still here, if you want to pipe into anything, you're welcome. And of course, anybody else that has an open mic. Okay, first person, Anonymous. Let me click the button here. Okay, you should be open. What's your first name and your state, Anonymous?
Hi. This is Elizabeth. I'm in Arizona. Good evening. Yeah, I was just listening to you, and you know, it just seems like there's always someone who wants to go against what's saying. And you know, so many people walk around and they say things that other people have said. They're not original statements. They just repeat, you know, whatever it is, you know, and then it seems like people will agree with that. It doesn't challenge their thinking, maybe. I really, you know, if there was one party, we'd be focused on the issue and not going back and forth about personalities, you know, and just to be able to get something done. But, you know, for me, it's just that I've had to learn how to be alone and quiet and like own, you know, I'm still learning to do this, you know, but to own my own views and but to also understand that we're a nation of laws, and those laws do not go against us. They actually give us direction. And so it's just that the media also has really drilled the stuff into our head to be obsessive and not have anything real, you know, like obsessive fear instead of instinctual fear, where, you know, what are we afraid of? Like, we've got an issue here. Well, you know, if it violates the law, we have to face that and look at it. But some people say it's their right to not have to do that. It's just something that came out of the, you know, the radical 60s. And, you know, because, you know, when my grandparents were young adults, they came out of a, you know, farmer type and they weren't real sophisticated. My grandmother had a third grade education. And so, but they had some shame about that. Not really, but some people do. And so someone comes along and they've got a degree in something, or they've got some initials after their name, and there's this tendency to put them above them, and it's just idolatry, you know, but the people don't know. And but then some of our grandparents understood what they didn't understand in terms of education. It was in their hearts, you know. They knew right from wrong. And I don't know, people have been, there's so much abuse that goes on in our lives, especially with children or any time, but when we're not treated fairly, when we're hurt, and this rebellion starts coming up. And that, to me, it's like the Constitution. It's the supreme law of the land, and it's like a touchstone to go back to when everything else looks like it's falling apart. And I'm really excited and fascinated about learning it. And I'm not, you know, I'm just still very new, but it's like it's familiar to me. It's stuff that I know is right, and I just don't have a lot of faith in our society. I mean, and the other thing is, people like to talk, and we all like to talk, right? So, but we want to have a debate or discuss things, and then there's this side. Well, I don't agree with that, or I don't. Okay, fine, but there's a supreme law of the land, you know, and that tells us that we're free to have our own view and not force it on others. You know, and sometimes there's, you know, we can teach each other if we're, you know, able to get past that. I've got to win. I've got to be right. I went to some, you know, Harvard or Stanford, and all those were created by Tavistock. Well, most of them, if not all of them. And it's all about, you know, just washing our brains so that we don't think for ourselves. And so, and I've heard that, you know, there's going to be a pause on the midterms. So that's going to flip people out. I mean,
I don't think that's going to happen, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's just that it's still so corrupt.
Yeah, well, it doesn't. Trump's got a plan for that, but we could talk about that another time. Go ahead.
Okay, but I'm just saying though that something may change where there's only one party, and because it's
well, no party actually, because we don't want a party.
Yeah, no party. Yeah,
no party.
Yeah, I agree. So, you know, I'm just saying though that I mean, that's the way it looks to me, but it's such a huge house cleaning that we'll just have to see how that plays out. But anyway, well,
let me respond to some of that. And before I respond, let me digress just for a moment. Terry, are you there? I see you muted. Are you there, Terry? Well, if you can hear me, Terry, I'll try to catch you a little later too. But if you can hear me, maybe you can fuse the two recordings together as one. I'll call you up after the program tonight. All right. Anyway, back to you. Yeah, I'd like to respond to some of that. You know, one of the problems is there's so many things going on, so many topics, so many potential discussions that take place, and unfortunately, people, you know, they watch maybe some documentaries, maybe it's on science or history or whatever, and they watch a few documentaries and then they think they become experts in it. We're all guilty of that to some degree, until we realize things are a lot more deeper and involved than what we're looking at. There's a lot more to it. That's why people have doctrines and different things. You know, we don't have the time in life to get doctrines in all of these different subject matters. But there are two things that you should self-educate yourself. And I don't think people should go to school for this personally, because you get destroyed there by the truth. The truth doesn't seem to get through, and there's always someone controlling that education, it seems. But people should self-educate themselves. You know, I'm self-educated. I never even completed 9th grade, you know, and so 8th grade was really the highest grade I went through, and 9th grade I dropped out of. But I did get my GED after I went into the service, and I did self-educate myself. I became interested in different things. But the two things that people, you know, of course, there are really three things people need to get educated in, depending on what they want to do for a living. So they should become educated and become the best of whatever they can be at whatever it is that they make a living at. But the two most important things that people need to know, in as deep as possible, ever learning on it, never not learning on it, from the day you become conscious of these things until the day you die, you should be working on it. And that is your knowledge of God and knowledge of country. They've already trained us, If you want to have a relationship with God, go find yourself a priest or a preacher or a pastor or someone in between. No, it's nice to go there because you should be, you can get a lot from someone preaching and teaching, but you got to do this yourself. And so, you really have to educate yourself. And the same thing with who we are as a people, okay? We're a Christian nation. I've written a lot of books, put a lot of information up on the website, so you can get a lot of information there. Almost everything I write is quotes. I mean, I'll take a guess, maybe 80%, maybe 90% of what's in my books is really quotes. You'll find it full. I just sew them together, ultimately. You'll find it all footnote heavy. It refers to where I get my information from. So there's no question about where the education is coming. So you can get a great education from that, from the books we got, from our website we have, from our education that we put together. We've got like 5 courses up there. Most of them are free. Well, I think we've got 1 or 2 courses that we charge $5. We ask people to become premier members, which is someone giving $5 a month or more. But if someone can't really afford that $5, you let Jan know, and he'll flip the button and get you in there for free anyway. Because we do want people to get educated. Okay, and there are a few people who are that poor and have done that, and we've turned them on, and but there's not that many. Most people can afford $5 a month, and it supports what we're doing because we need that support. We need to keep the lights on. But the thing is, though, we have to be self-educated in those areas. We can listen to people. There's a principle in the Bible that teaches us that we're to hear the teachings or the preachings or whatever. I'm paraphrasing this, by the way. But then after we receive the word, we are to search the scriptures to see if those things are so. That's the key. And it's the same thing when you learn about who we are as a people as far as our government is concerned. We could take all that information in, but we need to search the history to see if those things are so. And it's not hard to find that history. Not hard at all. We've talked about different books that you can get from different places. I think it's nccs.org, I think it is. I'll have to grab a book to take a look to see what that website is, if anybody knows the website. I think it's CCN. I'll have to get that in a minute. But anyway, that place has a ton of books. Okay, they got the real Thomas Jefferson, the real George Washington, the real Benjamin Franklin, the making of America. And they got the books are very, very inexpensive. And so it's really a heck of an education. I think it's nccs.net. That's what it is. NCCS. Let me check that webpage to make sure. NCCS.net. Let me see if I got it up before. Oh, let me try net. N-E-T. I think that's it. Yep, this is it. NCCS.net. This website has great education, really great education. I've got most of their books, and again, a lot of my research has come from these books, research online. It's tough online sometimes because the status quo is there, especially if you use AI. I use AI quite a bit to get some basic information, and details, but I don't trust it when it comes to anything that is status quo. Anything about the law, I take it with a grain of salt. Anything about who we are as a people, American history, I take it with a grain of salt, because there's so much lies out there. I saw a website when I was just searching recently on quotes, and I'm trying to think who was the person. It was either Jefferson or Madison. And I went to this one website, and every single quote that they said from this individual, again, I don't remember which one it was, every single quote was opposite of what our founding father actually really said. And that's how much deception is out there. So it's really difficult. So if there's anything that's more important, if there's anything that's important that people should know, that is God and country. That you shouldn't just trust whatever anybody says. That you need to search out whenever you learn anything new. Is that really true? Is that really right? Is that correct? Is that the way the history went? Is that who we really are? Is that who God is? You know, you have to search the scriptures in the case of God, and you have to search history out in the case of your country, and make sure that you got the truth. We can't afford to fail in those two areas: God first, country second. But everything else, you know, we can all have an opinion, but we do realize unless you have a doctrine in those areas, you really don't know as much as you think you know in the more sophisticated things, you know. But in any event.
But you know what, John? Even that idea that you have to have a doctrine it's got something about it that doesn't quite fit.
Yeah, but you can make your own doctrine. You don't need. Look at. I'm pretty well versed in the things I talk about because I've studied them. I don't need to go to school to learn those things. I don't need because I think my mind would have been ruined just like the rest of them that come out of these schools. I don't want to be ruined. I want purity. You know.
Right. Yeah.
Listen, I got to move on because I just realized how late it is, and we got two other people.
Oh, thank you for your time.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Good conversation. Thank you. Okay, Jeff, you got the mic. Pennsylvania, Jeff. Go right ahead.
Hi, John.
Hi.
Yeah, I've been trying to get on the last couple of weeks, and I've emailed, but they're just too lengthy of emails for, I guess, to be taken and read. So the little situation I want to fill you in on is dealing with the property tax assessor in our county, and sent them a presumptive letter, and then a second mailing to remind them of that initial presumptive letter, and then third, an affidavit of truth. And there was 14 days to rebut it. It's been almost over 3 weeks since rebuttal, because July 2nd would mark the 14th day. Wanted to know where to go next with that. What step you'd recommend before going to maybe a federal suit for default?
No. I would start off on local. I'd start off at the state court. Not necessarily that you're going to get anywhere. You're in Pennsylvania. It becomes a little more problematic than most other states, but just in name only, because you know they really are focused in quite differently concerning our Constitution. You know they are set up. Their courts are set up as chancery courts, and they even call the judges chancellors there in Pennsylvania, and that's a major problem, because that brings us right into the civil law. But in any event, that's where I would start off. You know, there's got to be some common sense in the courts to some degree still left somewheres, and you might be able to get through there. But you're going up against the status quo. That is a big one. Then from there, of course, you can always move it to federal court for cause. You know, not necessarily that you're going to win there either, because the courts are that corrupt, and they're going to maintain the status quo. It's a long shot to be able to get through there, both those places. Now, as far as the property tax is concerned, property tax is on its way out. I've heard conversation. Trump is very much aware of it, that it's a direct tax. You know, you pay for your property. You pay this property tax every year, and if you don't pay for it and they take it away, well, guess what? You've just been renting and you're not paying your rent, and that's a crime. That's on its way out. So when that's going to happen, I don't know, by next year, I'm sure it will. You know, remember, Trump's only got a little over 2 years more left. 2 years and almost, I guess 2.5 years. Yeah. So he's done a lot in the first 1.5 years. There's going to be major changes. Look, at the truth of the matter is, okay, and this is the facts. The truth of the matter, in the heart, in the minds of people, 65% of the population is conservative and have really a Republican heart. Even if they call themselves Democrat, they kind of have a Republican heart. I mean, if you look at the politics in the days of Kennedy and his positions, I mean, he looked just like a Republican, okay? And that's That's a Kennedy Democrat, I guess you'd call it. But anyway, 65%. So when this next election is going to be a clean election, okay, and you're going to find the Democrat party is just not going to be there. So Trump will really have an open door to move all of the things. He'll be able to move us over back to real money, gold and silver. He'll have the opportunity to get rid of income tax. That's on his list. An opportunity to get rid of the Federal Reserve or do something. Well, the Federal Reserve's got to go. I don't think there's any question about that. And by going to gold and silver, that'll destroy the Federal Reserve. So it'll get rid of that. The only thing I don't see a plan for is a proper education. And that's what we're trying to push forward, is a proper education. We've got to get the people a proper education. If we're going to lose the general public, the people that are out of school and working and doing things and are not interested in getting an education, and shame on them, we stand a chance of losing our liberty. But nevertheless, we can turn our children onto the truth. We can teach our children they have a duty. We have a duty to do something to protect this nation. We have a duty to exercise our unalienable right of government by consent. We have a duty to learn how that works, how to do that. We have a duty to go out and vote. We have a duty to respond to the call for a grand jury or a petit jury call. And we have a duty to make sure our courts are courts of law and bring back the sovereign writs that they've taken away from us. We have a duty in all those things, and if we teach our children, at least at some point in time, we'll have a nation that runs by the government, by the consent of the people. So it's a tough thing. So that's the way I would go with it, those two courts. But unless the court systems are turned by the time you get up into the federal courts, and we're working on that, and I hope Trump is working on that. And if that's the case, then you can win in the federal court. You will win in the federal court.
Well,
but only
here's the
turned back to the court of law.
The law is not the problem, because the law is just being misapplied. I read it and I showed him verbatim, and it's written for businesses only, not private property. And it says you have to have an income approach, or you have to have a signed income return and assessment. And we've asked for that, and they never could show it. So that's what the affidavit was for, about not response. So, because they know they got to write the laws that go around the constitutional protections. But the way they word it, that people assume and they misinterpret it, that it's for everybody. But it would say it's for everybody verbatim. It doesn't. It clearly says 3 elements are needed: income approaches, costs, and comparable sales. And that's all we did. We presented these things in an affidavit and in a presumptive letter to the assessor. We want him to substantiate that. If we're wrong, tell us we're wrong. If we're mistaken, tell us we're mistaken. But there was no reply at all. So the affidavit of truth was just on the matter of non-response. And since he defaulted, I thought that would be prima facie evidence that he basically loses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, again, it's an uphill battle. And there is a lot of stuff out there that we can use. There's a lot of statutes we can use and kick butt with. There's a lot of Supreme Court rulings we can use and kick butt with. But the problem is that they ignore it. It falls on deaf ears. When you bring it up in courts, they totally ignore it. It is a constant thing with, whenever decisions are made, which I'm not asking any judge to make a decision, but they on their own decide they're going to make a decision. They refuse a court of record coming in with a jury. They just outright refuse it, no matter what I do, no matter what I say, no matter what I demand. They just don't care, and they shut it down, and they make the decisions. And in their decision, it's constant. They will quote the scripture, so to speak, of the position of the opposite side, of the lawyer who's making the point on behalf of the government, or whatever agency, in the government agency. They will quote all of that, whatever they have to say, as if it is law, and completely leave out any of the position, the argument that I made concerning everything that they have said. And then, of course, they come up with a decision, and the decision works perfectly with what they've quoted out, what they wrote the case is all about. This is It is a serious problem in the courts, and people who aren't in the courts and don't know about this, boy, they're going to have a rude awakening if they find themselves in court. It's going to cost you thousands and thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars with lawyers just to try to get any kind of justice, and you won't get that justice anyway. You'll still lose if it's a status quo issue, fighting the system, you know? Anyway, you got a final word? Because I got to move on. I got one other person in the queue.
I decide to do like a Title 42, 1983 suit federally, can I use the deprivation of rights just on the federal Constitution or the state Constitution right under Article 1 of that?
First of all, if you tried to do that, they're going to push you back out and say you got to go deal with the state court first. Okay, so you have to go through that process. You got to go into the state court and up the process to go through, the next two courts up. And then you can move into the federal court. So they'll kick it out. If you tried to start off in the federal court, they'll kick it back down and say, no, you got to take this to the state first. If the state gives you a problem, and then we can consider it from there. But again, remember, status quo is the thing. It'll take some time to go through the process, and maybe by the time you get through the process, we'll have courts of law. But not long after. If we get courts of law, that's because Trump has done work with the people on this, and helped to push it through. And if that is the case, then you'll be fighting a battle you won't have to fight no more, because all that would be dealt with, on the other end of things in the law courts. So anyway. Let me move on to the next person, because we've got to close down in a few minutes, and want to give this person some time. Any final word, Jeff?
No, I'll get back if I have something. Try to get in a row next week or something.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, let's go to, is it Trevin? I don't know. What's your first name and your state?
Is that me?
Yep, you got the mic. What's your first name and your state? It looks like Trevin or Trevin?
Yeah, Trevon, how you doing?
Good. What's up?
I'm doing good. All right. So I'm curious. I have a similar question to the previous guy, and thank you for hosting this page. But if we know that these lower courts that have been established through the Constitution, these inferior courts are AOJs, they're kangaroo courts, they're violating our rights, and if we know that anytime the state is a party of the suit and the court of original jurisdiction is the Supreme Court, then why should we take it to any other of these inferior courts that do not deal with our rights but deal with commerce? Should we not follow the behest of the Constitution verbatim as what it says in Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2, that if the state is a party of the suit, that the court of original jurisdiction is the Supreme Court? Once the state becomes a party of that deprivation by either willfully acting or by their own admissions by not acting, then at that point they are a part of the suit, and we should just take it where it needs to be. Would you say that is not so, or if not, and if not, then why?
Well, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but the problem with the caller before you is dealing with something on the local level. They're going to have to deal with the local level on the state level before they move up to the federal level, and they have to get when the state court breaks the law by maintaining status quo, that's when he can move to the federal court. But I agree with everything you just said. You pretty much almost read the scripture here, so to speak, of the Constitution, and so anyway, in agreement.
Yeah, because
But here's one of the things. Going into the courts, this is a problem. People don't know this. They don't understand this. They need to wake up and understand this. The Constitution gives the law as law and equity. The word law is natural law, common law. There are 51 jurisdictions that are defined in Black's Law Dictionary. Okay, 51 different jurisdictions. And one of those jurisdictions is the jurisdiction of law. It's in law, at law, or just law. And that always means law according to natural law, common law. Then there's what's called equity. Now, equity is legislative law. And equity being legislative law is for people who are operating under commercial activities, so they have certain restrictions and certain regulations and laws that they must abide by. We've given Congress the authority, on at least on a U.S. level and also on a state level, but we're talking U.S. level. We've given Congress the authority to write equity, to write law on 18 different powers, and one of that is to control, commercial activity. Another one is to control themselves in the sense of writing law for the different government agencies. That's why we have so many U.S. codes. Okay, and you have a U.S. code that controls Congress, a U.S. code that controls commercial activity, U.S. code that controls the Navy, that controls the President. I mean, I forget how many it is. I think it's 46 codes, whatever, something like that anyway. And so all these codes are for that purpose. When you go into a court, okay, and you open up a case, you've got two options. You can do an arbitrated case, which would allow one person, the judge, to make a decision. But that would be arbitration. That decision is not final to begin with, nor is it required. The only time it's required if the case is under a value of $20, as the Constitution states. Okay? But other than that, anything over $20, then you have a right of a jury trial. That brings us to common law. That brings us to law, L-A-W. So these judges are really to make decisions in equity courts, and not law courts. And the moment you put in the paperwork that you demand jury trial, that you are opening what's called a court of record, that judge's hands are off that case, and he's got to move it to the people, and the people decide. You get a jury of 12. And that's the way it's supposed to be. But that's what they've stole from us. People don't even realize. People go before judges and go to jail.
Well, I tell people that all the time. In the 7th Amendment, what you're referring to, it talks about for all crimes and equity with controversies over $20, and the right to a trial by jury shall be respected by the people. But even if you don't use the amendment, you can go straight to the Constitution. Article 3, Section 2, Clause 3 reminds us, it says, for all crimes it will be by jury. We have to remember that every single court case must have the jury no matter what. That's one of the greatest things they fought for when we had World War II, and they were in Britain. The judges there were taking away people's homes, separating them from their kinfolk with no juries. So having a jury there is one of the most basic principles of due process. The only thing I would like to pick your brain about from what I heard you say just now, we have a slight difference of opinion.
Before you say that, say one thing to what you just said. You're absolutely right. I agree with you, but let me make it even clearer, though. If it's a criminal case, it must be a trial by jury. There's no getting away from that. Even if you plead guilty, you still must be heard by the jury, that guilty plea. The case must be looked at, and the jury must decide on the penalty, okay? And so it's always the jury on a criminal case. Forget...
It's always a jury. The 5th Amendment says for all crimes, capital information must be presented in the document of a jury. The 6th Amendment says you have the right to face your accuser and a jury. The 7th Amendment says for all crimes and equity with controversies over $20, there will be a jury. Article 3, Section 2, Clause 3 says there should be a jury. So no matter what, there's always supposed to be a jury. Anything that, if there is no jury and they're given any legislation that renders you guilty, the Constitution calls that a bill of attainder. And per Article 1, Section 8 and per Article 1, Section 9, it says no bill of attainder shall be issued. And any time there's a legislation that renders you guilty, it is a violation of the Constitution. There must be a jury verdict, always.
Agreed on that, absolutely. But bear in mind, you can't go into what's called arbitration on a civil case. And the arbitrator would be that judge, that judge of equity can take that seat as the arbitrator. But remember, it's still an arbitration, and there's still an appellate process, an appeals process. You go up the line with the decision if it's in error. For instance, if you have a case that is a slam dunk case, and you could move the court for summary judgment on that, and if it is so overwhelming and so obvious, then of course you can get your ruling, and it could be by a judge, an equity judge. Now, I would presume that the other side, of course, can appeal it, and it could go up the line, of course, through the appellate process. But if they're maintaining the law and common sense, then you should maintain the winning of that case. But go ahead, back to you.
Yeah, and so what I wanted to say earlier, you mentioned law and equity, and I want to give you my quick insight about that, and you can let me know how you feel. I would love to hear your opinion about it. But from my studies, Black's Law Dictionary, Volume 11, and other previous volumes and other definitions out there, law, if you read a bunch of his definitions, part of his definition says it upholds equity. Equity by Black's Law, Volume 11, says it's fair, righteous, good, even-handed. Now, if you go to the definition of legal, and I think this is where a lot of people get things very confused, because we've always been told to uphold the law. No one's ever told us to uphold legal. But somewhere in our mind, this dogmatic reality they created, we all perceive legal and law to be the same thing. But per Black's Law Dictionary, Volume 11, if you look at the definition of legal, the first definition says, runs parallel to law, must fall in confines of law. Second definition, it looks like law, appears to be law, doesn't fit to be law. But the third definition was that hit me the most, because it says, by definition, legal is opposed to equity. Equity is everything fair, everything righteous, everything good, everything even-handed. Why would legal be the opposite of that? Because just like we had the recent court case, the SEC versus Jarkessi, where then it was dissented by Chief Justice Davis, he mentioned it directly that they're using these legal policies as opposed to equity. Because equity is supposed to uphold God. Equity is justice. Law upholds equity. So when they're using these legal policies, it's in violation of the law, because law upholds equity and legal is opposed to equity. So what's your opinion about that?
Well, I look into Black's Law 4th edition and 2nd edition, and I've got it. Are you coming in? Yeah, it looks like you're coming in on a browser or an app, and you probably can see my desktop.
I'm looking at your screen. I'm looking, yes.
See, you can download the 2nd edition of Black's, and you can download the 4th edition of Black's.
I have all of them.
Okay, in both ears. Okay, I'm pretty sure.
Both ears, the Valentines, the Blacks, the Wex. I have every law dictionary. I've been studying for quite some time now.
Well, the two most popular and really I think the best in my opinion is Black's, and Bovier's. Black's I think is the most superior, but Bovier's is somewhat good also. But here's the thing: I'm pretty sure when I went into Black's Law, law and legal really are the same thing. Now it is true that if you're living under a particular type. Remember, there's 51 jurisdictions, okay, 51 jurisdictions. And so you may be living under a jurisdiction maybe that Britain is living under. They used to be under a common law procedure, but they also have lost that. Or if you go to another place where that's using another process of law, then yes, they would be calling something legal that, according to common law, would be unlawful. Okay, and it's just a play on words, really. But ultimately, the word legal and the word law is really synonymous, from my opinion. And I'm going to take another look at that in Black's Law and see. Maybe if you come back next week, we can discuss that some more further.
Oh, I guarantee you I plan to be here as often as possible. I've already read the entire Common Law Handbook for juries and sheriffs. I've read the other one, Common Law Community. I've read the other one, Meet Your Show and Everything You Need to Know. I've read a lot of these books. I've been on your site. So I've been following for a while. This is my first time going live, but I'm signing up to be a jurist as well too, because we need more people who are jurists to be there upholding the Constitution, because it's so sad that most people in these jury boxes have no clue what they're talking about. So I'm definitely planning on being back as often as possible, and thank you for having this platform where people can talk about this stuff in open. And I would love to hopefully come back and see what you have said after you looked up law, equity, and legal, and because I'm pretty sure my discernment is correct about this, but I'd love to hear your opinion as well.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure my opinion is correct too. But you know, look at when you get a contradictory position from someone particularly who sounds like they know what they're talking about. You do sound like, well, I know you know what you're talking about because you've done a lot of quoting really of the Constitution, and that's the position, that's the real law of the land. So that makes me required to go and look to make sure that I got a right perspective on the two different meanings of the word legal and lawful. So yeah, we could discuss it next week. That'd be good. What we're doing though is we're building administrators for the juries, where we're looking for 4 people, actually 5. One of them has to be a paralegal for each county, which is a state court in each county.
For all 3,133 counties, you're looking for 4 or 5. Yeah, I read through all. Yeah, I definitely want to be part of that.
Yeah, and you know, and then we're doing committees of safety also. Everybody should, if you know, I belong to a committee of safety. Not that it's exactly as it would like to be, but I don't take a leadership role there. But I am as an advisor there, and I participate. You know.
So
But
you,
go ahead.
I'm gonna ask the last question because I know you have other things you have to do. I'll stay on until you guys are finished. But are you familiar with the New York de jure Assembly?
The New York de jure Assembly. No, I don't think I am.
All right, they've been fighting, upholding the communities of safety and stuff like this for a while, and I recently became a part of them, and they've been doing things like going around serving notices to the everybody in Albany, all of our agents, and they've been able to effectuate a lot of different change, and a lot of their grounding and teaching is from the communities of safety. So, I'm a member of them as well as a member of the Black Panther Party. So we're looking to do as many things as possible. So getting all these groups to work together. I saw your video that you put up. You said, please watch the video, make it go viral. So I watched that content too. So I definitely want to share that with as many groups as possible because we need as many of these different groups throughout all of our nations coming together, united under God, to fight for our God-given rights. It's a republic if we can keep it. We have to remember that. And these liberties, anytime you don't fight for your liberties or restrict that freedom, that's a world that never existed and never will be. You know what I'm quoting right now, these sites. Not maybe verbatim, but we're all fighting for one common thing. And a lot of my students, because people hire me to help them with the court cases. I get their tickets dismissed and stuff like that. And a lot of what I'm showing people in the group that I'm building out here, because I do want to develop a community of safety out here in New York in a larger magnitude, so I'd love to work with you upon that, is getting them to really see what's going on in this court system so we can fight for it. So I'm definitely working on building it. Any way we can get to bring this to a bigger scale and more attention is I'm bringing everything I have to this because I'm tired of the recidivism. I'm a victim of the corruption, and all of our cases are the same thing. People tell me I'm separated from my daughter or my son, or I kicked out of my home, or their doctors ain't listening. All of it falls down to the exact same issue. We have a tyrannical government that's not upholding what they're supposed to do and violating our rights. And if we all come together, the same way how we had 4,000 people march up to the courthouses, I think, in Ohio, and made these judges not be able to enter until they did the right thing. We need to remember the power that we have, our strongest power is our numbers. So I want as many communities to come together, and I'm joining as many communities as possible. I'm putting my name out there because I want people to know that I'm one of those people who, when I say I'm fighting for change, I don't just read books. If you see my TikTok, I audit the police, I audit the courthouses, I'm fighting court cases, I'm building everything. I'm doing everything possible. So please, let's build, and if I can somehow connect you directly, let's continue building because iron sharpens iron. And maybe you're right about the law and equity. I'm not one of the people that's stubborn. That's why I want to have the conversation with you, because if you're right, then you're going to help me see it. If I'm right, I'm going to help you see it. But at the end of the day, we're fighting for the same goal, and the purpose is to get there together. So I just want to introduce myself. I'm Trevon. Everyone calls me by Trey, and we'll definitely be speaking again.
Well, amen. And, we, for people who are really interested, we're trying to get more people who are interested on a higher level to help organize and work. And we'll be talking with a couple of people this Thursday if you want to join us, if you're looking for really to help us. One of the things we really need is someone, because I think we have to really call a meeting. We've always wanted to do this, is call a meeting, and hopefully everyone will show up with all the people that are starting committees of safety. I'm not even sure. Let me see how many committees of safety we have in process at the moment. And sometimes these committees of safety, they start and then they fall away and they just never really come about. But right now we have listed total county committees of safety being organized, 195 of them. And I'd like to have a meeting with those 195, or as many as I can out of that 195, to see once where they're going, what's happening, how we can help them better, and try to, give them as an advisor. We don't want to order anybody to do anything. But we want to advise people and, of course, educate people. That's our key thing, is really to provide a place for people to organize, communicate, and become educated. But, the day that National Liberty Alliance starts to put down, well, you got to do this and you got to do that, that's the day you got to leave National Liberty Alliance, because we don't want to. You can't have liberty and freedom and committees of safety and people actually exercising their unalienable rights to have government by consent if they're controlled by, let's say, a boss, a party boss.
Amen. I love that. Amen. I love that. That's beautiful.
But if you're interested in taking a position like that, or anybody else that's interested, we're going to be talking to some people, and we really don't want anyone at this meeting that's not interested in really getting involved. If you're interested in really getting involved, we're having a meeting coming up this Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Right here in the room. And we'll be talking with the people that are interested in, we have some people who are interested in looking at our writing and assisting us with some writing. We need people to help us organize better, particularly the committees of safety. We need to develop a committee of correspondence, okay, because National Liberty Alliance should have a committee of correspondence themselves for the sole purpose to try to communicate to all of these different groups. Now, there have been times where people have gotten radical. We've had 2 or 3 groups over the years that have gone radical, and we cut ourselves off from them, and we then push for another committee to get started, because we don't want radicals. We have to be very careful in how we go about doing things. We have to be very lawful, and just keep pushing the law and righteousness. So, but anyway, with that, I'll give you the final word because we've got to close down. We're really late. So.
No, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you for having me here, and somehow if we can stay connected, I want to definitely build. Like I say, I'm all in, and any positions need to be filled if I can help out. I'm all here. I have a background in marketing, background in event planning, background in business administration. I worked in finance, so any skill set I can bring, let's utilize it to fight for together.
Yeah, do you have a website for that group, the Committee of Safety? I forget what you call the name of that group.
The New York de Jure Assembly. They're a private group in a sense, like you have to be part of the group because they only take people who are like really serious thing that you're looking for. So they
may have been a group we tried to work with, but they said that they don't work with with other groups. That might be that group. I don't know. I don't remember because we've had conversations with different people over the years.
Okay.
But
well,
I'm
fairly new. I just signed up with New York de Jure Assembly last week, so I'm very new. So I don't know if that is or isn't them per se.
Well, check it out and see once what you can glean off of them, and maybe you can share with us what you know, because me personally, I'm not joining any club until I know what it's about. And everybody, wants you to get an app. You want to sign up on this site and that site. And I don't do those things until I check out to see what's going on. You come to National Liberty Alliance, you get just about everything here. I think there may be 1 or 2 pages you can't get into unless you're a member. Maybe. I don't even know if that's true either. But in any event, we share everything. And then when people become members, it's because they want to support us financially or just support us also anyway, becoming members. But we hope that they'll support us financially also. Most people don't, unfortunately. We only ask for $5 a month or more. I mean, that's not a lot of money. And we have over 10,000 members. So let me see, how many members do we have right now? Let me see.
10,045.
Yeah, there you go, 10,000. So we got 10,000 members right now. And, if all these members were active and gave us $5 a month, just think about how much money you're looking at. What, $50,000 a month? We'd go professional. We'd be able to pay people, and people would get work done. Right now it's just everybody's a volunteer, and a friend with us here at National Liberty Alliance said to me one time. He says, I got good news and we got bad news. The good news is we got volunteers. The bad news is we got volunteers. So we need to go professional. If one day we can get somebody with deep pockets who would support us to do those things, that'd be great. Or if just the grassroots did it, hey, we'd be able to do it also. But with that, we got to close down. I see there are 2 other people, but I can't take any more. It's 20 after. So, okay. Thanks a lot for the call. Appreciate it. Terry, are you still here? Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. We've got, because they cut us off, is there any way that you have the software to splice? Because we got 2 recordings now, to splice those 2 recordings together? On a video
yes
level?
And no, I just got DaVinci Resolve loaded on one of my systems. I can't do it tonight, but it should paste together.
Yeah, you have to have a program to do it, to sew it together.
Oh, yeah, I got Audacity. I can do the audio tonight.
Yeah, the audio,
right.
I know. I could do that, too. I know you could do the audio, and Audacity will definitely do it, but the video is what I'd like to get up. So if you think you could do anything, let me know tomorrow. Meanwhile, tomorrow I'll start looking for maybe some software or something, because I used to do
DaVinci Resolve.
What's it called?
DaVinci Resolve 21.
Dissolve.
Yeah, go look for that. That's top of the line, everything. That's what Ollie uses.
Can you spell that?
Well, DaVinci, DaVinci.
All right.
Resolve, RESOLVE.
Okay. All right. I'll try searching for that and see what I can find, because I should be able to do that myself also. And but take a look at it. If you think you could do it relatively quickly, then that'd be good for us, because we'd like to get this up there. And
I'm not going to get it this week because I'm away from my home watching my son's
okay.
house.
Well, if I don't get it done before you get back, then you'll be able to do it, hopefully. But I should be able to do it. I'll search around and find some time. It should be pretty easy program to use, I presume. So
I'll leave that to you.
all right. With that, everybody, Lord willing, we'll see you all next Monday, and hopefully,
Okay.
there are still people in the queue. I just can't take any more. Got to close down.
Okay.
Hey, good night,
Thank you,
everybody.
John.
Thanks for coming.